The Mavericks return home looking to keep a 3-game home winning streak alive as they host the Los Angeles Lakers. Welcome to the Hardwood Report. I'm Ryder Bullock. The Lakers come in at 26-17, currently 6th in the Western Conference, while the Mavericks at 19-26 are fighting to climb out of 12th place. But they've been far more comfortable on their home floor of late. Dallas has gone 11-18 against Western Conference opponents, and when games get away from them, they tend to stay that way. Just 7-10 in games decided by 10 points or more. Still, they've been productive offensively, averaging over 117 points per game across their last 10 outings. For Los Angeles, consistency within the conference has been a strength. The Lakers are 19-12 against the West, and when games are tight, they've been flawless, 5-0 in contests decided by fewer than 4 points. That late game execution has defined much of their season. From a numbers standpoint, this matchup presents an interesting contrast. Dallas averages 11.2 made three-pointers per game, but they may be a challenge tonight against a Lakers defense that typically allows nearly 14 threes per game. On the other end, Los Angeles averages 116 points per night, just under what the Mavericks have allowed defensively this season. This is the second meeting between these teams. Back on November 29th, the Lakers took a 129-119 victory, led by Austin Reeves' 38-point performance, while P.J. Washington paced Dallas with 22. Individually, the spotlight tonight falls on some familiar and some new names. Cooper Flagg has been a steady presence for Dallas, averaging 18.8 points, 6.4 rebounds, and 4.1 assists, while Najee Marshall has caught fire recently, scoring 19 points per game over the last 10. For the Lakers, it's the familiar pairing at the top. Luka Doncic enters averaging 33.4 points, 7.8 rebounds, and 8.7 assists, continuing one of the most complete offensive seasons in the league. And LeBron James, even this late in his career, remains a constant, averaging 22.4 points per game over his last 10 outings. Looking at recent form, Dallas has gone 7-3 over its last 10, shooting nearly 50% from the field and outscoring opponents by more than 5 points per game. The Lakers, meanwhile, are 4-6 in that same stretch, scoring just under 112 points per night while allowing slightly more than they score. Injuries, of course, will be a major factor tonight. Dallas will be without Daniel Gafford, Kyrie Irving, and Anthony Davis, while Derek Lively II, Dante Exum are done for the season. For the Lakers, Austin Reeves remains sidelined with a calf injury, and Adu Thero is also out. So a short-handed Mavericks team trying to protect home court, a Lakers squad looking to regain momentum on the road. And another important chapter in a Western Conference race that grows tighter by the night. More on this game in a moment, but first, here's what's happening in the NBA. Knicks at the 76ers earlier today. Jalen Brunson scored 31 points, and OG Anunoby added 23 as the Knicks beat the Sixers 112-109 in Philadelphia, earning their first win over Philly this season. New York followed up its franchise record blowout of Brooklyn with a strong road performance highlighted by a dominant 30-point third quarter. Joel Embiid led all scorers with 38 points and 11 rebounds, but turned the ball over on the final play. Tyrese Maxey had 22 for the Sixers, missing a late potential tying three. Anunoby and Landry Shamet hit back-to-back threes late to seal it for New York, which has now won 2 straight after losing 9 of its previous 11. So, you look at this game, and the first thing you have to understand is context. The Knicks come in off an embarrassment of Brooklyn. Historic, yes, but meaningless unless you back it up. And they did. This wasn't pretty. This was dominant. This wasn't dominant wire to wire. This was a grown-up road win against a team that absolutely needed it. Now let's start with Brunson because that's where it starts and ends. Jalen Brunson controlled the game. Not flashy, but controlled it. 31 points, dictated pace, owned the third quarter. That 21-7 run, that's Brunson saying this game is over unless you stop me. Philly couldn't stop him. End of story. And this is where the Knicks won the game. The third quarter. Philadelphia lost the game right there. The Knicks walked into that building, took the crowd away, and turned it into Madison Square Garden South. When you hear "Let's go Knicks" on the road in the third quarter, that tells you everything about who has control. That doesn't happen unless the visiting point guard is running the show, and Brunson was waving after that three. That's confidence, that's leadership. OG Anunoby, this is why the Knicks traded for him, right? This is the part that people miss. OG Anunoby doesn't have to score 30. But when the game tightens, when Philly cuts it to 2, he hits the shot that kills momentum. Then Shamet follows, right? That's basketball IQ, that's spacing, that's composure. Those 2 threes, that's the game. So what was Philadelphia's problem? Well, it wasn't Joel Embiid, believe it or not. He was phenomenal. Let's not dance around it. 38 points, 11 rebounds, played heavy minutes, looked like the MVP version again. But here's the issue, and this has followed him for years. It's late game execution. The final possession, it's a turnover. Maxey anticipating a foul instead of a shooting look, air ball. That's not toughness, that's not poise, that's not championship basketball, and you can't play Embiid 46 minutes one night and expect him to be razor sharp at the end of another tight game 2 nights later. That's on the coaching staff. So what does this mean, big picture? Well, the Knicks had lost 9 of 11 before Brooklyn. This isn't a turnaround yet. Let's slow down, but it is some hope. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Stabilization. They didn't let Philly gain ground in the East. They went on the road. They closed. That matters. For Philadelphia, same question, same season, same late game issues. Up next, Knicks get Sacramento. Good test, tempo team. Sixers go to Charlotte. And if that's close, alarms should start ringing. Bottom line, the Knicks won because they were smarter when it mattered. That's not easy, but it wins games in April. In Charlotte, Brandon Miller scored 21 points as the Hornets beat the Wizards 119-115, handing Washington its 9th straight loss. Miles Bridges and LaMelo Ball added 20 points apiece as Charlotte won back-to-back games for the first time since early January. Trey Johnson led Washington with career highs of 26 points and 6 assists, while Alex Sarr added 24. The Wizards, now 10-34, started the youngest lineup by average age in NBA history and struggled early, shooting just 31% from 3 in the first half. Charlotte took control in the second quarter and held the lead the rest of the way. So you look at this game and the headline isn't the score. It's who these teams are right now. Charlotte won this game because they're farther along in the rebuild. Washington lost because they're still figuring out who belongs on the floor. That's not an insult, that's reality. Okay? Charlotte here is a quietly competent team, and it starts with Brandon Miller. 21 points, efficient, calm, didn't force anything. This is what you want from a young wing who understands the game is going to come to him if he plays it the right way. Then you get Bridges and LaMelo, 20 apiece. Not spectacular, not takeover mode, but steady. And this is the key, balance. Knuppel gives you 16. Diabate gives you 11. And he's got energy. That's 6 guys in double figures or close. That's how you win games when you're not a great team. You don't rely on one guy to bail you out. And let's not gloss over it. This is 2 straight wins for Charlotte for the first time since early January. That tells you they're at least capable of building something. And realistically, this game was decided in the first half. Washington never recovered from this. Charlotte shoots 60% from the floor in the first half, 63% from 3. That's not defense being lucky, that's defense being bad. When you give up that kind of shooting early, you spend the rest of the night chasing. That's exactly what happened. The Hornets go up 8 at the half, extended to 12 after 3. And even though Washington makes it interesting late, the game never really swings. So Washington's youth does not have structure. Now here's the fascinating part. Washington starts the youngest lineup in NBA history, average age just over 20. That's not trivia. That's a warning label. Trey Johnson was excellent, career highs. Alex Sarr gives you 24. Carrington, Champagne, George, all productive, but production without organization doesn't win games. You shoot 31% from three in the first half. You turn defensive possessions into shooting drills, and late game execution is still missing. This is their 9th straight loss, second longest skid of the season. At some point, losing becomes a habit, and that's the danger for young teams. So, big picture here, Charlotte isn't good. Let's not get carried away. But they're better spaced, right? They got more experience. They're more composed late. Washington, they're playing for an April draft, and whether or not they admit it or not, they're playing for that draft position, which is fine. But don't expect wins while you're teaching on the job. Up next, Wizards get Portland. If that's not competitive, you've got real problems. Hornets go to Philly. Totally different test, totally different speed. Bottom line, Charlotte won because they shot it better and knew how they were. Washington lost because youth doesn't close games. It learns from them. Let's move on. There was another game scheduled for today in the city of Minneapolis, but the Minnesota Timberwolves home game tonight against the Golden State Warriors was postponed just hours before tip-off, following a fatal shooting involving federal agents that has set off unrest across the city. The game, originally scheduled to tip off at 4:30 p.m. Central, was officially pushed back by the NBA in a statement citing the need to prioritize the safety and security of the Minneapolis community. The league now plans to play the matchup Sunday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, and the teams remain scheduled for a second meeting on Monday night in downtown Minneapolis. The catalyst for this unprecedented postponement wasn't on the court, but in the streets. Early Saturday morning, federal immigration agents were engaged in a confrontation in South Minneapolis that ended with a 37-year-old man being shot and killed. Authorities say they were involved in an operation when the incident occurred less than 2 miles from the Target Center. The man has since been identified as Alex Perte, a Minneapolis resident and ICU nurse, according to his family. A detail shared widely in local reporting. This is not an isolated incident. It marks the second fatal shooting and third involving federal agents in the Twin Cities in recent weeks. A tense backdrop for community relations that has already sparked widespread protests, including a large march through downtown Minneapolis on Friday that passed by the Target Center and the Warriors Hotel. As unrest has grown, even in sub-zero temperatures, city officials and law enforcement have struggled to balance public safety with the right to protest. The Minnesota National Guard has been activated in recent hours to assist with crowd control amid mounting tensions around federal immigration enforcement operations in the area. For the Timberwolves and Warriors, this postponement is a reminder of how each event off the court can reverberate through the world of sports. The NBA has navigated crises before, most notably in the summer of 2020, when games in the Orlando bubble were paused during the playoffs after player protests over the shooting of Jacob Black in Wisconsin. Tonight's break in action comes at a critical moment for both teams and for the entire league, as the hardwood often reflects broader currents in American life. We'll continue to monitor developments in Minneapolis, including community responses, league announcements, and how this situation might impact the NBA schedule and the conversations around safety and social justice in sports. That's what's happening in the NBA, and we've got an interesting matchup tonight in Dallas. The Los Angeles Lakers, 26-17, sixth in the West, are taking on the Mavericks, 19-26, sitting 12th. Now, at first glance, you look at these records, you think Lakers easy. But let me tell you, these Mavericks are not the same team we saw back in November. They're on a 4-game winning streak, and they've been cooking at home. So this one's going to be a battle, and I'm going to break it down for you. Keys to the game, what to watch for each team, and how I see it playing out tonight. Here are tonight's keys to the game. First, the Mavericks. Here's what Dallas has to do. They got to win, right? And how do you win? Well, they've got to contain LeBron and Luka. This is obvious. But Luka Doncic is averaging 33 points, nearly 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. He's the engine of the Lakers. And even with Austin Reeves out for the Lakers tonight, they still got LeBron. So Dallas's perimeter defense has to be locked in. They can't allow easy drives, and they need help defensively without collapsing too early on the rim. Number 2, hit the three-point shot. Dallas averages 11.2 made threes per game, which is 2.4 below what the Lakers typically give up. That tells me they need to be accurate from deep. Cooper Flagg, Najee Marshall, got to knock down those shots consistently. If they do, it opens up driving lanes and keeps the Lakers honest defensively. Finally, control the boards and tempo. The Mavs have been strong at home recently, averaging 46.8 rebounds and keeping the pace up with 26.5 assists over the last 10 games. They need to avoid turnovers, crash the glass, and push in transition when they can. That's how they get this home court advantage working. Now, for the Lakers, it's a little different. Here's what LA needs to do to come out on top. Number 1, play through LeBron and D'Angelo if he's in, right? Without Austin Reeves, someone else is going to have to pick up scoring. LeBron is averaging 22 points over the last 10 games, 25.5 points per game this month. He's the guy who's got to dictate tempo, attack the rim, and create shots for his teammates. Number 2, stop the Mavs' hot hands. Cooper Flagg, Najee Marshall, and the Mavs shooters have been tearing it up recently. The Lakers have gone 5-0 in games decided by 4 points or fewer this season. Use that to your advantage, right? So if LA keeps it close late, they're in a good spot, but they need to eliminate those open threes from Dallas. And finally, dominate transition and bench contributions. This is key. Lakers have been inconsistent on the road. They've lost 6 of their last 9 overall and only hit 120 points once in their last 10 games. They need their bench to contribute, push the ball, and avoid sloppy possessions. This road trip is tough. 3rd game in 8 nights, and energy management is crucial. Tonight's pick and play, the Mavericks at home coming off a 4-game winning streak. They're confident. The Lakers dealing with injuries, inconsistent on the road, might be a step behind. My pick, Dallas wins it. 123 to 117. You're looking at your money line. Mavericks plus 145. Look, the Lakers are 1-4 in their last 5 road games. The Mavericks are 10-2 in their last 12 home games. I like the Mavs to avenge that 129-119 loss from November. Over under the totals 233.5. Both teams have been hitting the high side lately. Lakers games over 235. There's been plenty. Mavs' last 4 wins were high scoring. So I'm going over 23.5. So there it is. Keys for each team. Pick and play. Mavericks at home. They're hot. They're motivated. They know what they need to do. Lakers are tough, but this road trip is brutal. Tonight I like Dallas to continue their streak and keep their home crowd happy. Tip-off is next.